I was just refilling the bird feeder. It was one of those cold Missouri mornings where the air smells like metal and your breath fogs up your glasses. I had my left hand elbow deep in the seed bag and a dumb country song humming through my earbuds when I heard the screen door creak open behind me. "Calvin," she called. Her voice wasn't scared. Just off. Like she was trying to sound casual but forgot how casual people actually sound. I didn't turn around. Just kept scooping seed. "Did you write this?" I knew what she meant before she even asked. I didn't answer right away. I poured the rest of the seeds into the tray and flicked off the earbuds. She was standing on the porch in her plaid pajamas. My plaid pajamas, actually, and holding a crumpled square of paper like it was radioactive. "You left this in my bag," she said. Her hair was wet. Not shower wet, freshly blow-dried wet. She didn't look like someone getting ready to do laundry on a Saturday. She looked like someone heading somewhere else. I dried my hands on my jeans and walked back toward her, real slow. My boots crunched on the gravel. For some reason, all I could think about was how the bird feeder chain had started to rust, and I never replaced it. She held the paper out like it was evidence. "You weren't supposed to see this," I said quietly. "It says, if you don't want to be here anymore, you're free to go. No hard feelings." I nodded. "That's what it says." Her eyes narrowed. "What is this? Some kind of test?" I took a breath. Not dramatic, just the kind you take when your ribs hurt from holding things in too long. "Lacey, you've been halfway out the door for months." I just opened it the rest of the way. For a moment, she didn't say anything. She blinked once, twice. Then she folded the note and shoved it back into her coat pocket like it had insulted her. "I was going to tell you," she muttered. "Were you?" I asked. "Before or after the cabin?" She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. Her pupils tightened like tiny fists. "There is no cabin," she said. "Too fast. Your email said otherwise." She went pale. "You read my emails?" "You left your account open on the laptop." I didn't need to read much. Just the subject lines. "You really used your maiden name to book it." Now she looked mad. Not guilty, mad. Like I was the one who committed the betrayal. Like I was the inconvenience. "So what? You want me to beg? You want me to grovel and tell you I'll change?" I shrugged. "No. I just want you to go if you're already gone." And then came the silence. Not the comfortable kind that couples have when they're sitting on a porch swing watching the sunset. No, this was the kind of silence that says we are officially done pretending. She stared at me, waiting for something I didn't give her. No tears. No questions. No why am, or how long. Eventually, she stepped back into the house. And 5 minutes later, I heard the suitcase wheels dragging across the hardwood. She left the note on the kitchen counter next to the cold coffee pot. That was the moment I realized she hadn't expected freedom. She'd expected a fight. And the fact I didn't give her one? That's what broke her. By Sunday, the house already felt too big. Her hairbrush was gone from the bathroom. Her phone charger had vanished. The his and hers mugs we got from that corny Christmas market, only one left, pushed to the far edge of the dish rack. I didn't sleep that night, not really. Just laid on my side, staring at the window, replaying every conversation we'd had over the last 3 months. Trying to remember where exactly she slipped through the cracks, and I just watched. But by Monday, something shifted. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I let those go to voicemail, but my finger hit answer without much thought. A man's voice, too cheerful for 9 a.m., said, "Hey, is this Calvin Marks?" "Yes." "This is Ian from Brooktrail Cabin Rentals. Just confirming your second payment went through. Your girlfriend picked the keys up yesterday. Everything's set for the week." My spine turned to glass. "I'm sorry," I said, barely holding the phone to my ear. "What did you say?" He repeated it. "Girlfriend. Keys. Yesterday." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My hands started shaking so hard I had to sit down on the stairs just to breathe. "Could you tell me what name the reservation is under?" He hesitated, probably realizing he'd already said too much. "I'm not really supposed to it." "She's my wife," I said, my voice breaking halfway through the lie. "Or was. Please." Another pause. Then, Lacey Braxton. Braxton. Her maiden name. Just like in the email. That was all I needed to hear. I hung up and stared at the floor for maybe 20 minutes. I don't even remember blinking. Then I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I got in my truck and drove. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe some tiny part of me believed she'd be there alone, regretting everything, waiting to talk. Maybe I wanted her to be with someone, just so I could confirm it and stop pretending otherwise. Whatever I was expecting, it wasn't what I got. The cabin sat at the edge of Lake Heron, tucked behind birch trees and a broken wooden sign. It looked peaceful, serene, too beautiful for what was happening inside it. I parked across the road, engine off, windows cracked. The truck still had our wedding playlist on the dash screen. I didn't play it. I just watched. At first, nothing. Then the front door opened, and Lacey stepped out in one of her long gray sweaters, the one I'd always teased her about because it looked like a blanket with sleeves. She laughed, loud, carefree, and then he walked out behind her. Tall, clean-shaven, wearing the same flannel shirt I had given her last winter because it looked too big for me. So that's where it went. He put his hand on her back like he'd done it 1,000 times. Like they'd practiced this. I didn't cry. That was the weird part. I didn't scream or punch the steering wheel or cry like you'd expect a guy like me to cry. I just felt cold, detached, like I was watching someone else's story play out from behind a screen. But what I did do was pull out my phone and take a single photo. Not to blackmail her. Not for revenge. I just needed proof. Because I knew, sooner or later, she'd come back with some carefully crafted explanation. Something designed to make me question my own memory again. Something that would unravel my spine and make me say, maybe we can fix this. But not this time. I turned the key in the ignition and drove home without looking back. The wind hit the truck like little punches, and for once, I didn't turn up the radio. I let the silence sit with me. That night, she texted me, "Lacey, I need to come by and grab a few more things tomorrow. Is that okay?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "Me, sure. I'll leave the door unlocked. Don't forget your lies on the way out." The 3 dots blinked for almost a full minute. Then nothing. And I knew, right then, that was the beginning of her unraveling. Because she thought I'd beg. She never expected peace. And peace? It's the loudest silence you can leave someone with. I didn't see her the next day. She came while I was at work, like I knew she would. She always hated confrontation when she wasn't in control of it. I had left the front door unlocked, just like I said, and when I came home, it was wide open, barely swaying in the wind like it was holding a secret it didn't want to carry. Inside, it was clear she'd been through every drawer, every shelf, every closet. Not everything was gone, just things she could grab in a hurry. Her yoga mat. The green scarf she only wore when she wanted compliments. That stupid gold mug that said "Boss Babe," but she left the wedding album. That once sat on the dining table like a landmine. I didn't touch it. Instead, I poured myself a glass of milk, which felt ridiculous considering how much my life had just collapsed, and sat on the porch with the glass sweating in my hand. The sun was going down behind the shed, and I could hear the neighbor's dog barking at nothing. That's when I noticed it, her key. It was sitting on the doormat. No note. No explanation. Just the little silver key, still on the keychain I bought her from a truck stop on our honeymoon. The one shaped like a heart, with a bottle opener at the end. She said it was tacky back then, but she used it every day since. I picked it up, held it in my palm, and for the first time, I let myself feel everything. The betrayal, the disrespect, the sheer cruelty of how easy it was for her to pretend I didn't matter anymore. The same woman who once cried when I wrote her a letter after her mother died now couldn't be bothered to look me in the eyes as she walked out of our marriage. I wanted to throw the key, but I didn't. I walked inside and put it in the junk drawer where I keep old batteries, dead pens, and half-used birthday candles. Seemed fitting. Then, around 11:47 p.m., she called. I stared at the screen, watched it ring until it went to voicemail. She didn't leave one. 10 minutes later, she texted, "Lacey, I feel like we need to talk. Can we do that?" There it was. Not an apology. Not even an attempt at one. Just talk. That vague, slippery word that people use when they don't want to admit guilt, but also don't want you moving on without them. I typed something, deleted it, typed again. Finally, I replied, "Me. If you're calling to say you made a mistake, say it. If not, I don't need closure. I need peace." She didn't text back for hours. I didn't sleep. I just lay there with the phone on my chest like it weighed 50 pounds. At 4:16 a.m., another message buzzed in. "Lacey, I didn't expect you to take it this well. You always get so emotional. I guess I thought you'd fight harder for me." That says something. I read it 5 times. Each time it made me feel smaller. Like somehow, even my calm was a betrayal to her. As if choosing peace meant I never loved her deeply enough to begin with. But that wasn't the part that wrecked me. It was the final message, 15 minutes later, that tore something inside me. Lacey, Eric says he doesn't want to keep seeing me. Says I need to figure my life out first. I don't know what to do. And just like that, her plan had collapsed. The guy she threw our marriage away for? He didn't want her. Not really. Not when it got complicated. Not when there were messy feelings and unpaid bills and a real version of her that wasn't wearing perfume and lying to someone's husband. She thought I'd be waiting. That I'd be her emotional backup generator. Her plan B. Her safe place, once again. But I was done being a soft landing. I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. I just let her words sit there in the thread like a fire she thought I'd run to put out. And I could feel it. She was panicking. Because nothing frightens someone like Lacey more than being ignored by the person they used to control. The next Friday came around, and it had been 4 full days since her last message. 4 days of silence, which used to be unthinkable in our marriage. Lacey couldn't go 4 hours without sending me a meme or asking what I wanted for dinner. But now, the silence didn't feel like space. It felt like someone circling back, calculating their next move. I should have known she wasn't done. It was around 6:20 p.m. I was microwaving leftover chili and listening to the kitchen faucet drip like it had something to say. I just sat down on the couch when headlights pulled into the driveway, slow and cautious like the driver wasn't sure they belonged there. My stomach sank before I even looked out the window. She was back, standing at the edge of the porch with her arms crossed tight over her chest like she was bracing for winter. I opened the door before she could knock. No words. Just that same worn-out stare like she hadn't slept in days. She was wearing the hoodie I bought her 2 Christmases ago, the one she always said was too baggy. Now she looked like she'd shrunk inside it. I just need to talk, she said softly. I leaned against the frame, not moving an inch. Didn't seem like you needed to when you left. She sighed and looked past me like she was hoping the furniture would start crying for her. Can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. Not because I wanted her there, but because I wanted to hear the story I already knew was coming. She walked in like the walls still remembered her. Like her fingerprints still gave her access. She didn't sit. Just stood in the middle of the room, turning once like she was checking to see what had changed. I didn't tell her that I'd washed the sheets. That I'd thrown out her half-used face creams. That the laundry machine felt calmer without her timing every spin cycle like a dictator. Finally, she spoke. Eric ghosted me. There it was. Just like that. No sugarcoating. No slow build-up. She expected that bomb to land in my chest, maybe earn her some sympathy. But all I felt was this quiet sense of confirmation, like I'd finally caught up with what my gut had been screaming for months. He said he didn't sign up for all this, she continued. The fallout. The mess. He said I needed to get my life together. I nodded once. Smart guy. She flinched. I didn't come here to get insulted. No? Then why are you here, Lacey? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you traded in our life for someone else, and when that didn't pan out, you remembered I existed. I didn't plan for this to happen. I laughed short, sharp, bitter. That's the problem. You did plan. The fake girl's trip, the new passwords, the overnight stays. You had a whole script. You just didn't expect me to step out of it. She finally sat, slowly, like the couch might reject her. I made a mistake. You made a choice, I said. A mistake is locking your keys in the car. This was a demolition with blueprints. She stared at her hands, twisting the sleeves around her fingers until the fabric strained. I thought you'd fight for me. I thought, if you saw me slipping, you'd pull me back. That was the moment something broke in me. Because deep down, some part of me had believed that for years. That if she was slipping, I was supposed to save her. That my love had to come with rope and duct tape, patching holes in a ship she was drilling from the inside. I'm not your lifeguard, Lacey, I said quietly. You walked into deep water and then blamed me for standing on the shore. Silence hung between us, heavy as bricks. Then, a knock at the door. I frowned. You expecting someone? She shook her head. I walked over and opened it. It was a man, maybe mid-30s. Broad shoulders. Nervous eyes. Holding a padded envelope. Hey, is this Calvin? Yeah. I think I should give you this. He looked at Lacey behind me, then back at me. I didn't know she was married when I met her. Not at first. I found out later, and I ended it. But I kept this, just in case. He handed me the envelope and walked off without another word. Lacey didn't move. Her eyes widened. Her face drained of all color. She looked like she was going to be sick. I opened the envelope right there in front of her. Photos. Not just of her and Eric. Not just of the two of them holding hands or kissing in parking lots. But receipts. reservations, hotel records, screenshots of texts, and one voice recording. I played it. Lacey's voice. Don't worry about Calvin. He's not the type to leave. He clings. If anything, he'll thank me for being honest, eventually. I didn't say anything. I didn't throw it at her. I just stood there, watching her come apart. I was drunk, she whispered. No, I said. You were clear. You were confident. You just weren't expecting this. She tried to speak again, but I raised my hand. This conversation is over. And this time, I was the one who walked out. The thing no one tells you about being betrayed is how quiet the aftermath is. No alarms go off. No dramatic soundtrack cues in. It's just you, sitting on the edge of your bed at 2:47 a.m., staring at a wall you've painted twice, realizing the life you were building was only ever yours. They weren't in it the way you thought they were. They were just visiting. That night, after she left for the second time, this time not in power but in shame, I stayed up pacing the hallway, holding the envelope like it might disintegrate if I loosened my grip. Her voice on that recording kept replaying in my head, especially that one part. If anything, he'll thank me for being honest, eventually. The arrogance of it. The way she framed betrayal as some twisted form of charity. But here's what really threw me. The guy who handed me the envelope, Derek, I found out later, he wasn't just some random rebound. He was another one. Eric was the name she gave me. But Derek? Derek had no idea there was an Eric. And the photos? They went back 6 months. 2 men. 2 affairs. 1 marriage gutted like a deer in hunting season. She had turned our love into some careless scavenger hunt, collecting hearts like tokens, never once wondering if any of them actually beat for her. By the next morning, she texted again. Not about coming over this time. Just a string of messages, desperate and all over the place. Lacey, I didn't mean for it to go this far. Lacey, you have to believe I loved you. Lacey, you don't understand how lonely I felt. Lacey, you never asked me if I was happy. It was the last one that nearly made me throw my phone through the drywall. I did ask? 1,000 times. I asked in small ways. In the way, I brought her coffee with 1 sugar even though she told me she didn't care how I made it. In the way, I bought a second lawn chair just because she once said it'd be cute to read outside together. In the way, I held back tears the night her dad called her a disappointment, and I had to pretend I didn't hear it. I was asking. Every day. She just wasn't listening. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I knew if I did, I'd start cushioning her fall. That's the role I'd always played. Her emotional cushion. Her moral scapegoat. Her plan B. I couldn't do it anymore. But that didn't stop her from trying. On Wednesday, a letter came. Handwritten. Pages long. Her handwriting looked shakier than I remembered. Maybe rushed. Maybe just broken. She tried to explain it all. How she felt invisible. How she never meant to hurt me. How Eric was a mistake. But Derek understood me, she wrote. He saw me. Saw her. That part stung in a place I didn't even know was still raw. Because I had seen her too. At her worst. At her lowest. Crying on the bathroom floor after losing her job. Sobbing over the dog we had to put down. Screaming during that fight about my mom's birthday dinner that somehow spiraled into her yelling that I always put everyone else first. I had seen all of her, and I stayed. But she wanted to be seen in a different way. Through a different lens. One that didn't require any history or consequence. She ended the letter with, maybe we needed this to reset. Maybe now you'll finally understand me. And maybe we can rebuild, this time honestly. It was signed with a heart. I folded the letter, walked outside, and burned it in the grill. No drama. No video for proof. Just watched the flames curl around the edges of the paper until her words turned to smoke and floated away like they were never meant to stay. That same evening, I ran into her sister at the grocery store. Beth. She always liked me more than she liked her own sister, if we're being honest. We bumped into each other by the dairy aisle. She looked at me, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to figure out how deep the damage really went. She told Mom you're going to take her back, she said. I blinked. She said that. Beth nodded slowly. She's been telling everyone. Says you're just working through it. That you just needed time. I laughed out loud, the kind that doesn't sound like laughter at all. Well, she's going to be real disappointed. Beth hesitated, then leaned in. Do you want to know something? She never believed you'd leave. Ever. Not even once. And that, more than anything, sealed it. Because everything made sense in that moment. Lacey wasn't afraid I'd walk away. She was afraid I wouldn't chase her when she ran. But I didn't chase. I let her keep running. and I was about to do something that would finally close the chapter for both of us. It was the following Saturday when everything snapped into focus. I'd spent the past week untangling the mess she left behind, canceling her name off the car insurance, redirecting the bills, calling my buddy Rick to help me haul out the love seat she picked because it matched her vibe. I wasn't rage-purging. I wasn't destroying. I was reclaiming. And each little change made the air feel lighter. Like my house was finally starting to breathe again. The last thing I expected was for Lacey to come back while I was hosting someone else in the kitchen. Her name was Melanie. I'd met her a few weeks before everything imploded. Nothing romantic, just a barista at this quiet little coffee shop off Route 14. We talked about books, of all things. She had a dog named Pilot and hated cherry-flavored anything. She smiled with her eyes and had this way of listening like what you were saying was the most important sentence in the world. I hadn't told her much about my situation, only that I was recently unattached. But when she came over that Saturday to bring me a pie she'd made from scratch, I think we both knew the porch coffee was turning into something more. She was standing barefoot in my kitchen, laughing at my awful attempt to peel apples for cider, when the front door creaked open without warning. At first I froze. I thought maybe I'd forgotten to lock it. But when the footsteps echoed across the living room floor, I knew it wasn't a stranger. It was Lacey. She appeared in the doorway like a memory trying to reclaim space. Her hair was tied back in a messy bun, no makeup, hoodie, and jeans like she'd dressed casual on purpose, like she wanted to look relatable. She stopped cold the moment she saw Melanie. The smile on Melanie's face faded instantly, her eyes flicking between us like she'd just walked into a soap opera she didn't want to roll in. Lacey's voice was sharp but low. "Oh, so this is why you've been ignoring me." Melanie looked at me for permission, silent, polite, waiting for my lead. I nodded slightly. "It's okay. She was just leaving." Lacey's eyes widened. "Excuse me." I stepped forward, blocking the space between her and Melanie. "You walked out, Lacey. You didn't just leave me. You left us. You walked out of this life. So no, you don't get to walk back and like nothing happened." Her jaw clenched. "You think moving on this fast makes you look strong?" "No," I said. "I think it makes me look free." She laughed, one of those bitter, breathless scoffs that don't carry any humor. "So, what? You're just gonna replace me with the first smiling stranger who makes pie?" Melanie winced but didn't flinch. I turned toward Lacey, lowering my voice. "No one replaced you. You removed yourself. What you're seeing here is just what happens when someone stays, instead of running every time they feel unseen." There was a long, electric silence. Then Lacey's face crumbled, the mask falling away faster than she could catch it. Her eyes welled up, not with remorse, but rage. The kind that boils when control slips through your fingers. "I gave you everything," she said, voice shaking. "And this is how you treat me?" I tilted my head. "You didn't give. You loaned affection with terms I wasn't allowed to read. And when I stopped accepting the interest rates, you defaulted." Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Melanie broke the tension. "Cal," she said gently, "I should probably go." "No," I said, without breaking eye contact with Lacey. "You're not the one who needs to go." Lacey's lip quivered. "You really mean that?" I nodded once. "I really do." And that was it. The end of the scene. No final speech. No apology from her. Just the dull click of the door closing behind her as she walked out for the last time. No suitcase. No bags. Just a ghost retreating into the daylight. Later that evening, Melanie and I sat on the back porch, sipping the cider we'd butchered together. She didn't press me for answers. Didn't ask for the backstory. She just leaned her head on my shoulder and let the silence speak. And in that quiet, for the first time in months, I didn't feel broken. I felt chosen. By the time Monday rolled around, the fallout had started. Not from me. I hadn't told a soul what happened between Lacey and me. I wasn't one of those guys who aired dirty laundry over drinks at the bar or in long-winded Facebook posts. But secrets have a way of leaking when people feel cornered, and Lacey was starting to drown. I heard it first from Dennis, the owner of the hardware store. I was picking up a new deadbolt, symbolic, maybe, but also practical, when he gave me that hesitant look people get when they're not sure if you've heard yet. "So, you and Lacey?" he asked. I soughed. I just nodded. He scratched the back of his head. "She's been talking. Said you tossed her out for some girl you met on the internet." I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so predictable. Of course she'd twist the story. Of course she couldn't stomach the idea that I'd moved on, let alone that I'd done it gracefully. She needed to be the wounded party. She needed to be the victim. But what she didn't know was that her web was starting to unravel in every direction. That same afternoon, I got a call from Beth, her sister. "Cal, I know you don't owe me anything," she said. "But people are talking, and I don't know what's true anymore. Lacey's telling everyone you cheated on her, that you were emotionally distant, that you froze her out for months." I didn't say anything right away. I just sat there, staring at the wall, the rage starting to pool in my throat like battery acid. "She even said," Beth continued, "that you were verbally cruel, that you used to manipulate her emotions with silence. Cal, I've known you for 10 years. That doesn't sound like you." "It's not," I said, finally. Then I told her everything. Not angrily, not dramatically, just the facts. The hotel bookings, the 2 separate men, the envelope, the voice recording. The day she walked in on Melanie and tried to spin it as betrayal when it was her own reflection staring back. Beth was quiet for a long time. Then she exhaled into the phone like someone who just let go of a burden she didn't know she was carrying. "Thank you," she whispered, "for being honest. For not being her." I hung up and went about my day, but the damage had already started rolling like a slow avalanche. Small-town stories don't stay still. They grow legs and run. And while I wasn't the one talking, others were. By Wednesday, I heard she'd lost 2 of her freelance contracts. One client told her she seemed distracted and volatile. Another claimed she'd spoken poorly of her ex, me, during a pitch meeting. She was spiraling, and every attempt to rewrite the narrative only made her look more unhinged. What surprised me wasn't that she was unraveling. It was how quickly the people around her stopped defending her. Because here's the thing about serial manipulators. Eventually, they run out of new people to lie to. Thursday night, just before midnight, she texted me again. "Lacey, I thought I could just start over. I thought I could erase it all. But now, I can't breathe. Everyone's turning on me." I stared at the message, wondering what she expected. Sympathy? A lifeline? She followed it up a few minutes later. "Lacey, I didn't just lose you. I lost everything. My job, my name, my stability." I didn't reply. I let her sit in it. Because if there's one thing she never gave me during our marriage, it was space to feel. Every moment had to revolve around her version of events. Every emotion I had was questioned, reframed, or dismissed. She never once allowed me to process my pain. So this time, I gave her exactly what she hated most. Silence. But that silence didn't last long. Because the very next morning, I opened the mailbox and found a handwritten letter. Not from Lacey. It was from Derek, the man who handed me the envelope. It began simply. "Calvin, there's something I didn't tell you that night, and I think you deserve to know the full truth." I sat down on the front step, the pages trembling in my hand. And as I began to read, my stomach dropped. Because what he revealed, it changed everything. The letter from Derek was 3 pages long, each word written with the kind of care you don't expect from someone tangled in another man's broken marriage. He didn't excuse what happened. In fact, the first line read, "I owe you the truth, and an apology that probably doesn't mean much coming from me." But he gave it anyway, and he gave me something else I didn't know I'd been searching for. He explained that his relationship with Lacey started under false pretenses. She told him we were already separated, that I had emotionally checked out, that she was in a cold, loveless marriage held together only by routine and guilt. At first, he believed her. She seemed convincing. Hurt, even. But over time, little things didn't add up. She dodged his questions. Lied about where she'd been. He found her texting someone named Eric late at night and hiding her phone when he walked into the room. That was when he realized she wasn't just cheating on me, she was cheating on him, too. The envelope he gave me? That was his way of stepping out. Of saying, I don't want to be part of this woman's destruction anymore. But the part that caught me off guard was at the very end of the letter. "You were never the fool, Calvin. You were the one who gave love honestly. Don't let her convince you that makes you weak." I sat there on my porch for a long time after finishing those pages. Not crying, not angry, just still. Because for the first time in what felt like years, I wasn't carrying it anymore. The doubt, the shame, the gut-twisting question of whether I had somehow failed her by being myself. The truth was, I hadn't failed her. She had just stopped showing up long before I noticed. That evening, I went inside and deleted her number. I took the wedding album from the cabinet and carefully removed the photos, not to burn them, but to box them away. They were still part of my story, but they didn't get to define the ending anymore. And as if the universe had waited for me to finish grieving, something shifted the next week. Melanie came by again, this time not with pie, but with a book. A first edition of a novel I once mentioned offhandedly months ago while we waited for her kettle to boil. She found it at a second-hand bookstore 3 towns over and said, "I saw it and thought of you." That small gesture meant more than she could have known. We sat on the back porch again, wrapped in a soft silence that didn't ask for anything. She didn't press me, didn't ask what I was feeling. She just sat with me, like someone willing to stay through the quiet parts too. Weeks passed, then months. We didn't rush anything. I still needed time to grow into the version of myself that didn't shrink in someone else's shadow. But for the first time in years, I started waking up without that sinking feeling in my chest. The house didn't feel empty anymore, it felt calm. Like it belonged to me again. One morning in late spring, I planted new flowers in the front yard. Lacey always hated gardening. Melanie brought lemonade and laughed at how bad I was at digging straight lines. We sat side by side, dirt under our nails, sun on our faces. And I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Lacey to fall apart or to hear she regretted everything. I didn't need an apology wrapped in manipulation. I didn't need her to see the man I became after she left. Because I finally saw him. And I liked him. This wasn't the ending I expected. But maybe it was the beginning I actually needed.